Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the Football Guys Best Ball Show. I am Dave Kluge, as always, joined here with my good friend and co-host James Brimacombe. James, we finally got another puppy right before the season kicks off. Here we are 2 days away from kickoff, and we have the puppy 4, which looks like it's already about 1/3 of the way full. This is going to fill by Thursday, right? There's no questions about this.
Yeah, probably like Thursday morning, Thursday afternoon. Yeah. And then, yeah, the burnout's real. So, yeah, if you want to keep drafting, it's there for you.
So looking
I'm
at
going
these
to,
fill rates, we're at 34.5% for the puppy 4, and
mhm.
we are at 97.2% for BBM. I got to think at this point, I mean, both of these are going to fill. We were hoping that there might be a little bit of overlay to take advantage of, but with the next 2 days here and everybody wrapping up their redraft and, home leagues, work leagues, family leagues, whatever it may be, people are probably turning their sights to best ball for the last couple of days.
Yeah, I mean, I think like that's we always wanted to chase overlay like in all these best ball contests, and that was kind of our thinking. It's like, oh man, these tournaments are huge. There's going to be overlay at the end, but it's actually exciting that there isn't going to be any overlay. That just means that this whole game that we love is just keeps growing and growing, and I mean, there's just going to be more and more offerings down the line. So, like, I think it's a positive thing. So I'm not sad I'm missing out on overlay. I'm more
Yeah.
excited kind of about the future. So
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. And I mean, tall ask on Underdog, 451,000 entries in BBM. And here they are. I mean, you figure if they're taking an 11% rake, all they really need is 89% to break even. And they've already surpassed that. So congrats to Underdog. They have been
yeah.
blown up. Just a reminder, if you haven't already signed up for Underdog, first of all, I don't know why you're watching the show if you haven't already signed up. But if for whatever reason you haven't, use promo code Football Guys and they will match your initial deposit 100% up to $100. Well, James, let's go ahead and dive in. We've always had some sort of plan and some sort of theme with every episode we've done so far, trying to make it fun for the users. But here we are, 2 days away from kickoff, and I think we're just gonna have fun with this one. Thought about doing a couple at a time with the puppy, but that's gonna be a little bit too hard trying to host a show and do all of that at once. So here it is, the final offseason draft. We are going to go with
Mhm.
the puppy 4, and I just realized that my rankings are still in here. So before we kick this draft off, let me go ahead and delete these real quickly.
Wow, let's just use your rankings. Come on.
Nah, it's all right.
I want to win some money. I want to win some of your money. I'm probably different rankings than you. So,
So we will clear these out. These puppies fill in a matter of seconds. So I'm sure this one is already kicked off here. Here we are. We have where are we picking from here?
yep, way at the back, it looks like.
All right, 10th pick. Got a fun idea with this one, James. I'm not going to say it over live here just in case somebody else that's watching this happens to be in this chat, but I think we got a pretty fun idea with what we'll do with this one, picking at the back end.
Yeah. No, if I'm on the same page as you, I think it will turn out. So we'll see.
I think it will work out this way. So, are you planning to max this one out? I mean, you're looking at a $5 entry, max 150. I feel like there was ever a tournament to max out. This is definitely it.
I mean, that's always the goal in the puppies. I just think they're the kind of the best value of what I want to do with my bankroll. So, like, I like the top prize, like it's what 75,000. Like, I'm
It's a nice hit.
pretty content with that. Like, if you're for a $25 bullet, you're going for the 2 million, but for 75K, I think it's worth $5 and play around with
Absolutely.
it and have fun. So.
Now, do you know off the top of your head what the rake is on this one? Because I know we've been getting spoiled with those rake-free Pomeranians for the last couple of months.
Yeah, those ones were the rake is 10 and a half, so it's pretty good still, under
A little less
11.
than BBM. Yeah, not bad at
Mhm.
all.
Yeah.
So we got to imagine at this point. I mean, well, this guy might be autoing right here with the 101, so going JT. But oh, there it is. Christian McCaffrey must have his rankings uploaded in there. It seems like Christian McCaffrey is just the unanimous 101 at this point. I mean, now that we are so close to kickoff and he's got a clean bill of health and he's been tearing it up in camp, Jonathan Taylor. No disrespect meant to Jonathan Taylor, but when Christian McCaffrey's on the field, I mean, this guy is just a absolute beast, giving you, almost a floor of 25 points seemingly every single week. So people have kind of transitioned and pushed McCaffrey up there. And we talked about this when we started doing the show a couple of months ago when running back values were falling like crazy. And we just aren't seeing that now as a lot of other people kind of plug into the best ball streets. And here we are right off the bat, Chris McCaffrey, Jonathan Taylor, Austin Eckler, running back, running back, running back. That is not something we were seeing a couple months ago. And it's getting more and more common now as we're closer to the season.
Yeah, like Eckler is in the top 5 now in this puppy 4, so that's you see it every time now. And
Yeah,
sometimes he'll be there at 6. So it's basically like you almost know what the top 6 picks are going to be now in almost all these drafts. So it's kind of crazy how that's worked its way out.
yeah,
We've just kind of put those guys there, so it's hard to be different a little bit
yeah,
in those spots. See, yeah, you look like everything's in the top 6, so you
yep.
can mix and match them. They come out different, but it's pretty much what they are now.
Yep. And this seems to be pretty standard for what we see, that top 6 and then Dalvin Cook, Stephon Diggs, probably Derrick Henry next in some sort of order. It seems like there's a very clear-cut top 6, and then we've got a pretty
Mhm.
clear-cut 7 through 9. But here, Grumpy
Yeah,
Simon throwing us off with the Saquon Barkley pick there. But I like it. If you're Jason Seelin, um, that's the way to go. We'll take Travis Kelce at 110 here. Maybe a little bit rich, but we got a plan that we're gonna stick with, and I think that'll be fun.
yeah. I mean, Henry's a nice pick there too. I have been seeing Barkley go a lot more in the first round. Like people just don't really like those end of the round picks, and like even myself, I've been taking C.D. Lamb sometimes there just because, yeah, all those running backs are the same. They always kind of come back to you. So,
And something I talked about, I wrote this in an article, put it in a tweet thread recently. I don't like paying up for this tier of receivers here. Devontae Adams, CeeDee Lamb,
mhm.
Debo Samuel, Tyreek Hill. No disrespect meant towards any of those guys, but I feel like there isn't a huge fall off between these receivers that you're paying up for right here. We just saw Devontae Adams go, CeeDee Lamb, Debo Samuel, Tyreek Hill, Mike Evans. I feel like that if you just wait for this next tier of receivers, AJ Brown, Michael Pittman, T. Higgins, I feel like you're getting pretty similar value at a round and a half to almost, a 2 round discount.
And there's some truth in that. I kind of push C.D. Lamb in with Diggs and Adams myself, so then I think it's a different tier. But
Yeah.
that's just kind of like I can see what you could put them in either tier if you wanted.
And CeeDee
But yeah,
Lamb is
all those guys are similar, like you say, Debo and Tyreek and Evans and Brown. Like they are similar to Lamb. It's just I'm just thinking the Cowboys could be really bad, and Lamb just has like this nice clear path to a lot of targets, a lot of production. So that's kind of why I bumped him up some.
totally random. This has nothing to do with this year's outlook for fantasy
Mhm.
football. But do you remember Amari Cooper scoring 39 points week 1 last year?
No, I don't like the Cowboys. So
I didn't remember that at all. I was looking through the week 1 scores over the last few years, and most of them are the names that you'd expect, Calvin Johnson and Julio Jones and Devontae Adams, Alvin Kamara, things like that. But last
Mhm.
year, 2021, the week 1 high score was Amari Cooper. He had 17 targets week 1 and then and 2 touchdowns, 139 yards, and then just completely fell off a cliff. For some reason, I don't remember that. I thought that was pretty interesting looking back at last year. Um, just prepping for a show later this week, and of course, we want to see who the week's high scorer, the week 1 high scorer is going to be. Sammy Watkins did it just a few years ago. Wondering if he can repeat now with this news that Alan Lazard might not be ready.
Yeah, no, I mean those spike weeks are valuable. Those are what we want. So even if it's Cooper week 1 for 39 points, it's still not. Yeah, I think we'd still take that. So
And I think that's one of the games that I'm most excited to watch in week 1. It's crazy that we're talking about week 1 matchups here, but the Cowboys and the Panthers, I feel like there is just so much that we're going to learn from that game. We could speculate all offseason, but how's
Mhm.
Jacoby Brissett going to do? He's got this historical penchant for really preferring his tight ends and his running backs. Are we going to see that? Also, want to see how Baker Mayfield does. This is inarguably the best quarterback that DJ Moore has ever had. Is Baker going to be able to unlock him and put DJ Moore into that wide receiver 1 category? Is he going to be able to support Christian McCaffrey? How is Christian McCaffrey going to, split touches with Deonta Foreman? I feel like there's so much in that game. That's one of the games that I'm probably most excited about.
Yeah, no, yeah. So who knows? Like all these things we're thinking all year long, and yeah, everything's just gonna turned upside down after Sunday, after
Mhm.
Monday, I guess. So, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if you've started diving too deeply into the schedule yet, but man, there are some fun matchups, and I'm just getting so geared up thinking about it. And then, of course, we got the storyline with Russell Wilson going back to Seattle to play against the Seahawks on Monday Night Football. I mean, it doesn't get more exciting than that, does it?
Oh man, I'm most excited for this Lions Eagles game myself. So
Yep, that'll be a great one too.
I mean, I actually think Thursday night's gonna be really fun, so I'm excited for that one too. Yeah, just like whenever I get a chance to watch the games, like doesn't matter what game I'm putting on, I'm ready to tune in, kind of see my guys how they're doing.
Yep. And then, of course, me being a Bears fan, I'm excited about that game. But I feel like that game has so many fantasy implications as well, where you got Trey Lance and Justin Fields, kind of seeing how they take that step forward in year two. Want to see if
Hmm.
the San Francisco 49ers are going to look maybe a little bit different this year. Now with Trey Lance under center and, Brandon Ayuk out of the doghouse. Now, all of a sudden, instead of just Elijah Mitchell, they've got Elijah Mitchell, they've got Tyrion Davis Price, they've got a healthy Jeff Wilson. I mean, this is the fun part of the year where we've spent the last 7 months speculating, and now we actually get to confirm or rescind some of our priors after just a couple hours of football.
Now, 49ers are probably the best team, but the one of the best teams, and then but their situation for fantasy is just a disaster in my opinion. Like I just don't know where to go with them.
Yeah, that is a tough one. Well, James, we started this one off. You told me that you had done this a while back, and I thought it'd be a fun way to kick off the final show of the offseason. Here we are stacking up really big time with Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes. Two unanimous top five quarterbacks here, and then we got the 1 and 2 tight ends as well, Travis Kelce and Mark Andrews. And of course, both of these guys are stacked. So we got the Mahomes Kelce stack, and we've got the Lamar Jackson and Mark Andrews stack. So we're done at this point. No more quarterbacks, no more tight ends. We are going to be stashing and stacking up wide receivers and running backs for the rest of the draft. Do you think this is something that a lot of other people are doing? Is this a way for us to kind of get a little bit different in this contest?
I don't think a lot of people are doing that, no, because it invests way too much in both positions, right? So like it's not as bad with both tight ends, but both quarterbacks there and in 4 picks is rough sometimes. Like I've seen people take a running back and then hope like Lamar or Mahomes fall back to them in the 5th round, so then they have a little bit more to work with. But yeah, I kind of like this one in just like the $5 builds, just because it's a way to be different and it brings like the fun back in drafting a little bit. And I think it just kind of, especially when you're picking at the back end of drafts, like you have to be unique, you have to be different. So it kind of forces you to do that. You're going to land on probably 5 or 6 running backs that you normally wouldn't. And then the same with receivers too.
Yep.
So it kind of changes the view of your whole lineup in the end.
And looking at the board right here, I mean, Patrick Mahomes is an ADP of 47.
Hmm.
Now, realistically, this is about when he should be going in the draft. So we could have gotten Marquise Brown, Travis Etienne, Keenan Allen, Chris Godwin. We could have gotten a guy like that in the fourth, but then you're hoping that Patrick Mahomes falls a full round and a half. And I think the reason that he might fall is because we already have Kelsey off the board. So nobody's trying to get that Kelsey Mahomes stack, which could help him slide a little bit. So if you're doing this by yourself and you've got a pick that's maybe you're picking sixth or seventh overall and you want to try this, you'd probably wait and hope that Mahomes is going to make it back to you somewhere around here, 54, 55, 56. But just for the sake of the show and for the sake of content, we reached and we locked Mahomes in. So we've got those two quarterback and tight end stacks. So from here on out, I mean, there aren't really too many sure things at this point. All your sure things when it's coming to wide receivers and running backs are pretty early in the draft. So I think if you're going to lock in, these two stacks at quarterback and tight end from here on out, you got to kind of swing for the fences with just about every pick, right? I mean, you're looking more for upside than you are for any sort of assured production.
Yeah, I would be definitely chasing the ceiling here because you're locked in at those 2 positions, and now you can have fun with what you want to do. Especially you're kind of right at the turn too, so like players can fall to you positions. Like if you saw that last round, there's a lot of wide receivers that went off, so that might be a concern here that there's not going to be much to pick from. So maybe you want to go 2 receivers in a row. Maybe you want to just go 1 and 1. So.
Like it, I mean, all five of these top five guys that are on the board right now, I like them all.
Mhm.
And Zeke might be a little bit of a safe pick, but if we're getting him this late at 58, if he's going to slide there, Rashad Bateman would have been a fun one just to tack on with an
Mhm.
even bigger Raven stack, but he just went off the board. I mean, I'm sitting here talking about swinging for the fences, but my goodness, if Zeke falls to us here, I feel like we've got to take him, right? I mean, we're almost getting an anchor running back build even with these guys.
Yeah, I think he is the play here.
Yeah. I mean, that is kind of crazy, the disrespect that we've got going towards Ezekiel Elliott. I mean, this guy just does nothing but churn out RB1 seasons. And I get, there's some concerns last year that his efficiency dipped a little bit, but I say it all the time. I feel like availability is a skill, and that's what Ezekiel Elliott does better than anybody. This guy, outside of being suspended, he just does not miss games since he's been in the league. He suits up every single week. So he might not give you those spike weeks, but he gives you a pretty reasonable floor, at least for best ball.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to be different, and maybe doing the start that we did, it forces you into a lot more of the dead zone running backs, like everyone hates. So, like you're going to see that a lot more in this kind of a build, and you just kind of
Guess,
have to be okay with it.
guess who came out of the dead zone last year? James Conner, Leonard Fournette. I mean, the red dead zone running backs, it doesn't mean that they are assuredly going to bust. It just means that there's some risk there. But every year there is
Right.
gold that comes out of the running back dead zone as well. So that's kind of an approach that I've taken in a few of my drafts this year where I lock in, 4 stud wide receivers, and then I get myself an elite quarterback or an elite tight end. I'll just draft 4 or 5 running backs straight out of the dead zone in hopes that, I just 1 or 2 of them can hit.
Yeah, and I mean, here you're pretty dried up at wide receiver, but I still think there's like options to hit that position. So no one wants running backs here. I'd probably keep going running backs.
That's what I'm thinking. I mean, I like Brees Hall. He's gotten some negative
Yeah.
buzz in the preseason so far, but that's a pretty darn good value there. Not as crazy about Cam Akers, Damian Pierce, not a guy that I'm buying into that much either. You think Brees is the move here?
I think pairing with Zeke's a good move because Zeke's, he could go either way this year. And I think Hall could as well. But you get like one on a different age spectrum there. So it's not a bad play.
And things change a lot this time of year. I hate using the term, casual drafters or,
Mhm.
whatever you want to call it, but people just aren't as plugged in this time of year. And, we hear so much that you need to adhere to ADP and you don't want to be bleeding EV when you're drafting early in the offseason. This time of year, though, it is anything goes. I mean, people are plugging in, they just want to get their guys. So if you are somebody who prefers, scooping up value in your drafts, this Puppy 4 is a great tournament to do that in.
Oh yeah, there's always tons of value that falls to you, and you just kind of have to leave that door open for you. So you don't really like. I know we kind of locked in quarterback and tight end. When you do that, you're gonna miss out value on the quarterback and tight end down the road. And there might be less value at running back or receiver. But like you said there, like right there, we kind of got a little bit of value in Elliott, and he's probably not a guy that we've both been drafting much of. So it kind of forces you again to be more unique.
I mean, you say a little bit of value. I'm going to say we got great value. We got
Yeah,
Ezekiel Elliott a round and a half after ADP, and we got Brees Hall over a round after ADP. So I mean, those are as good as you can get if you're looking to scoop up value after paying up a little bit for the other guys early.
yeah.
Here we got a question in the chat. Where have you been drafting running back Texans Damian Pierce? That's a good question, and I feel like this has been talked about a lot because my wife, for example, she's in Scott Fishbowl this year, and she got Damian Pierce in the 16th round of Scott Fishbowl. So when you were drafting 2 months ago, that's where he was going. People were getting him in the 16th, 17th, 18th round. I feel like in a tournament like this, the playing field is a little bit more level because everybody's drafting with the same information. But man, it's really tough to pay up for a guy like Damian Pierce in Best Ball Mania when you know that you're going to be playing against people who drafted Damian Pierce in the 16th, 17th, and 18th round. Is that kind of how you feel, James?
Yeah, Best Ball Mania, yes. Like I wouldn't draft him there anymore. Hopefully you have a few shares from early in the summer. For Puppy 4, yeah, you can draft him. Draft him at ADP. It's fine because you're all playing the same field here. But I mean, I'm still not really drafting him.
No.
I like to piece together 5 or 6 other guys, and I've kind of missed that on him all along. So I'm just taking the L there.
Yep. I feel you on that, man. Sometimes you just,
Yeah.
I've made it this far without drafting him. I'm not going to change my priors a week before kickoff. I completely get that. Now, J.K. Dobbins, jumping out to me right here. He's coming off the ACL, but we're already pretty loaded up at Baltimore. Wouldn't mind hitting that, just stacking up Baltimore a little bit more. And then all of a sudden we have 2 high ceiling running backs and then a floor play in Zeke. Do you like J.K. Dobbins here? Or do you like some of these wide receivers that are jumping
I
out to
was
you?
gonna say Ayuk was my play there.
Yeah, I liked Ayuk as well, but unfortunately off the board.
Yep.
Um,
I mean Cooper, I guess, but yeah, I'm not really on J.K. Dobbins, but
at
in
this
this
value,
build,
though, again, we're getting him almost 2 rounds after ADP.
yeah, yeah, grab him.
Let's
I
do it
mean,
because I think there's I don't think there's a huge difference between Amari Cooper, Kadarius Toney, and Chris
Mhm.
Olave. And with us picking again in just a few picks, I don't think there's any chance J.K. Dobbins was going to make it back to us, especially with Richie here with one running back. He was probably eyeballing him. So I think that we can get Cooper, Toney, or Olave here. Cooper is my preferred choice as well. This guy already having 5. I don't think he's taking another wide receiver here. This is the guy I'm concerned about whether he takes him away from us. But if Cooper gets snatched from us, I'm totally okay falling back on Kadarius Toney.
Yeah, and I would be all right going another running back and just
And I'm fine
ending
with
our
that too.
draft like 9 or 10 wide receivers, and just you're already putting so much trust in Elliott being something, and then hopefully Dobbins gets back on the field and like Hall breaking out. So you're already making all those bets.
So this one's on you. I'll leave it up to you, James. I mean,
Just
do you want one of these? We can really just lock up the Dallas backfield
no,
and go Pollard, go negative EV.
no, I'd probably go Cooper.
Cooper. Yeah, I think that's the
Just,
move here as well.
I mean, it's kind of he goes perfect with the Zeke Elliott team, like two guys nobody wants to draft. So
Yeah, we're just picking up what we can here. And how about that? Amari Cooper is a wide receiver one. All of a sudden, it's starting to feel like 2018 in here.
yeah, no, I mean that's what happens when you do this bully QB tight end build. But in
This
the
one
end,
will,
you usually don't mind it in the end. It's
yeah.
like
No, I
it's
mean
not
it's
you're not gonna
fun.
love it, but you won't mind it.
So I saw Josh Allen, still going number 1 in Underdog. I'm not sure if you pay much attention to Fantasy Pros expert consensus rankings, but I was kind of surprised to see it flip flopped, and Lamar Jackson is now the QB1 in Fantasy Pros ECR. He has passed up Josh Allen. I was kind of surprised to see that. And I think that in Underdog, the Buffalo Bills, we know they're going to be a powerhouse, and with
Mhm.
Stephon Diggs and Gabriel Davis and Dawson Knox, there's so many options to stack. I think that just from a pure projection standpoint, though, Lamar Jackson is going to have to run a lot with J.K. Dobbins possibly starting the season unable to play. Gus Edwards not looking likely to play. I mean, if the two best running backs in Baltimore are going to be Mike Davis and Kenyon Drake, Lamar Jackson might start the season running 12 to 15 times a week.
Yeah, he's been higher up on my rankings as well, but it's the same with Kyler and Hurts. Like those guys, probably their projections are probably even up above maybe even Mahomes and like Herbert. Like they could be just because of that rushing ability. Like if we know those quarterbacks are going to run and it's a guaranteed that they're going to run, like I think Josh Allen, the concern is he's their franchise. They gave him all this money. They have all the weapons offensively for him to get the ball out. Like they don't need him to run. Where I think
Exactly.
Lamar still needs to run, and probably Jalen Hurts needs to run, and Kyler still needs to run. Like those quarterbacks, I think are a little bit still decent value
Yeah.
in my eyes over the Herbert and the Mahomes, and even Josh Allen to a degree, just the price you have to pay for them.
And we're having fun with this build, but
You know,
I'd say that my this isn't typically something that I'm advising going out and doing. We're just trying to have some fun here and get a little bit different and switch things up. But typically, and anybody that's watched the show has probably seen it a lot. I have so much Jalen Hurts and so much Kyler Murray because the way I look at it, those top 6, Jalen Hurts, Kyler Murray, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Justin Herbert, Patrick Mahomes, they all project pretty similarly. So what I like to do is just wait for whoever's cheapest rather than paying up for any of them. I'll take whoever's cheapest, and that just ends up happening to be Jalen Hurts and Kyler Murray most of the time. So those are 2 guys that I'm very exposed to.
no, yeah, I think that was the play. That's the play I was on as well, just doing it the same way. And for a while, it was like you could get Hurts at the end of all that. Now he jumped Kyler, and he's like a round ahead of Kyler. So now I'm just on Kyler, and
Yep.
it's the kind of the way it goes. You get one of those guys, and then it's easier to go with 2 quarterback builds in these 18 rounds as well. So like if you get one of those guys, you're kind of locked in, and then you can just like I'm done with QB until like round 16, and then find some other dude that correlates with your team. Like
Yep.
that's easy play. Well,
Who are we looking at here, James? Who is jumping out to you? I mean, I just can't
uh,
help myself from wanting to get
Rashad
this one in, but I
Penny
tell
and
you,
Cordell Patterson are the guys that I would go here.
yeah, I like that. Rashad Penny for sure. I like Tyler Lockett for the spike weeks, but that's just I
Yeah, you
can't
could
take
you
Tyler
you
Lockett.
could go Lockett too, because there's a ton of running backs there. So the guy next to us, what does he have? Yeah, 2 and 3 and then 2 and 5. So yeah,
Let's go
grab a
lock it here.
locket.
We can lock in some spike weeks for sure. Um, Yeah, and I don't know how great I feel about having Rashad Penny and Tyler Lockett on the same team, but there's a lot of other running backs here. So I like Cordero Patterson. Miles Sanders is somebody that I've been warming up to a little bit. I don't know how you feel about Miles Sanders, and it's not so much that I've been warming up to Miles Sanders. It's just that his ADP has slid into the point where I am fine drafting him now. If I'm getting Miles Sanders in round 10, I'm totally okay drafting him there. I just drafted Miles Sanders in my home league, and again, not a guy that I'm crazy about, but it feels like we have just punished him way too far down draft boards at this point.
Yeah, it's just been a roller coaster year for him off season, just up and down ADP, kind of like around the same though, but up and down around.
So is Patterson the guy you like here? Or would you prefer Sanders over him? Do you want to swing
I,
for the fences with Traylon Burks? Who do you want here, James?
I mean, yeah, maybe you go Burks, the young receiver. Like, look at all those running backs there, and like maybe someone's gonna fall to us here.
Yeah, we'll get another running back. There's going to be more than enough to go around. Oh, we missed it and got Patterson. I thought I clicked it in time. All right, Cordell
No,
Patterson it is. Well, could be worse. Ezekiel Elliott, Brees Hall, J.K. Dobbins, Cordero Patterson. We've got a mix of floor and ceiling and youth and veterans. I mean, it's an interesting mix there in our running back room. Let's let's sort of plan ahead a little bit for this next pick here. Let's queue up some guys that we would be interested in. I mean, Daryl Henderson's a guy that I really like. It just looks like there's going to be a little bit of a split backfield. We don't know how Akers is going to recover from that Achilles injury. We talked about Miles Sanders a little bit. He just went off the board, so we won't be getting Miles Sanders. Melvin Gordon is another guy that not too crazy about, but if we're looking for contingent value here, he's probably going to be in a split backfield. But if something were to happen to Javonte Williams, he's got a huge upside being on that powerhouse offense. But we are really getting thin on wide receivers here, going with Amari Cooper and Tyler Lockett. Probably only add one more running back to this. And then what do we still have? 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. We still have 8 picks left. So I'm guessing that what we're probably going to do is throw one more running back in here and then finish with 9 wide receivers. Is that kind of what you're thinking?
yeah, that was my thinking right from the get go. I think once you go with those first 4 picks, like I like Singletary, he won't be there. I think Kenneth Walker is a really fun build for this build because then you get the Hall and the Walker, both the rookie projected could be top 2 rookies,
Yeah.
and then you have the veterans around them, which probably one of those guys is not going to be last by the end of the season. I mean, but I still like Gainwell, I still like Michael Carter, like all those. Like, so maybe we don't go running backs here. Go
Yeah,
for
that's what I'm thinking.
younger receivers. Even like Russell Gage is like he would work for our build here.
Nico Collins is a guy that I'm in this build specifically okay paying up for him a little bit. I feel like if you're drafting him, as a wide receiver 5 or a wide receiver 6, you want to take him at value, but he's a guy with immense upside that we have really been liking. So I'd be okay paying up for a guy like Nico Collins here.
You
DJ
got
Chark is a guy who could, I mean,
Hardman
look,
with Mahomes if you want. I know people hate
there you
him,
go.
but
And not a huge Hardman fan, but he'll work in with this build. That's
mhm.
for sure. Um, Jacoby Myers is a guy that I feel like I can't stop myself from drafting. I feel like I've dropped this nugget quite a few times, but he was top 16 in target share last year. I don't expect an old decrepit Devontae Parker to come in there and just suddenly siphon away all of his targets. So I think Jacoby Myers is a guy who is just wildly undervalued at this point. Jalen Tolbert.
Yes. So I like Gage and Myers for this kind of build, right? Because we're not going to get like these crazy ceilings for wide receivers kind of on our team, but we're going to get that from quarterback. We're going to get that from tight end, and hopefully we get that a little bit from running back. But I think you could play it safe just with one position more so, just receiver with this kind of build.
So just take the target share guys. We're
I
not
think
going for
so.
the intense spike weeks. We don't want the Sammy Watkins. We want
Mhm.
the Jacoby Myers.
Yeah, I
No,
think that would be how I play it. But also, I like Josh Palmer for the upside. I like McKenzie for the upside, Collins for the upside,
and
Shark.
Palmer's another guy that we talk about, the contingent value all the time. But let's say something happens to Keenan Allen, who's now, going on age 31, or Mike Williams, who's always injured. Josh Palmer is a tweaked ankle away from being a wide receiver 2 on one of the most explosive offenses in the league. So I love Josh Palmer.
Mhm.
He's a guy I can't get enough of. Looking at ADP a little bit, let's just try to, we're going to have the 130th and 135th here. After that, 154 and 159. So if we want Jacoby Myers, we're probably going to have to pay up for him now, or we're hoping that he's going to slide a full round here.
Yeah,
Um,
I would go Josh Palmer or Kenneth Walker. Like that's where I'd go right here.
let's go with Josh Palmer. Just, we talked about him a bit. We've already got, I think the main thing, I just don't want to invest too much in Seattle if we don't
Mhm.
have anything else going there. But with this next pick, I like Nico Collins for the upside, but that's a pretty risky pick to be taken as our wide receiver for. Um,
Yeah, I'd go Jacoby here or Shark. I like Shark too, just because he could still have a safe floor, but also he could have some spike weeks as well. We just if we knew he's completely healthy, right? And like that's the thing with him.
I feel like we haven't heard much about it at all, but I mean, what's stopping DJ Chark from being the wide receiver one right now? He's been hurt for the last couple of years, but this guy's a stud when he's healthy. Well, let's
Yeah,
go ahead with Jacoby Myers here, and then we've got a nice little slew of wide receivers here. I think out of these 6 wide receivers, at least one of them slides to us with our at the 13th, 14th turn. So, it's gross looking, but Amari Cooper, Tyler Lockett, Josh Palmer, Jacoby Myers, tack one of these guys on. Suddenly we've got a decent floor in our wide receiver room at least, and then we get the spike weeks with the big stacks there as well. Um, and then of course, if we're looking this far ahead, I feel like we have to at least look at stacks somewhat. So we got the Chiefs. I believe they play the Broncos week 17, right?
sure.
I don't know if you've got that off the top of your head or not, but it doesn't hurt to sprinkle in some late round correlations there if we can. So, or I'm sorry, it's the Chiefs. Oh, I'm looking at last year. I'm pretty sure this year Chiefs and Broncos playing. I think it's Ravens and Steelers, but let me look it up just to double check. Yeah, Ravens and Steelers, and then Chiefs and Broncos. So not that it's something we have to reach for, but if we get a chance to throw in a Steelers wide receiver or a Broncos wide receiver, it does help us a little bit with that late season correlation as well. That could help us out in the playoffs.
It was like KJ Hamler's like the would be the only option though, right?
Pretty much, yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Because at this point, Pickens, Claypool, I think they're already off the board. Yep, yep. It's getting real thin real quick. So let's see where KJ Hamler is. Then James Robinson, shocked to see him slide. And you saw the news that James Robinson is going to be ready week 1, right? And obviously, we don't know what type of limitations he has. We don't know if he's
Mhm.
going to have some of his juice zapped from him a little bit after that Achilles tear. But James Robinson has just been putting up fantastic numbers since he's come into the league. And I realize that now he's going to be splitting touches with ETN and he's coming off the injury. But man, to see him sliding all the way into the 13th round is a little wild.
Yeah, he seems like a guy you just shouldn't bet against. So we have not learned our lessons over the years on him.
Got Antonio Gibson in the chat telling us that this big build sucks. How do you feel about that, James?
Well, man, we should have got Gibson. He would have worked well with this build. So
He would have. Yeah, Antonio, if you just turned in, we are trying a fun little build here where we started off with Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, and Mark Andrews, locking in the quarterback and tight end stacks, as good as you can get there. And then we went running back, running back, running back, running back with Zeke, Brees Hall, J.K. Dobbins, Cordero Patterson. And now we are just taking the quantity over quality approach with our wide receiver room, Amari Cooper, Tyler Lockett, Josh Palmer, Jacoby Myers, and then I mean, it sounds gross to even say hopefully one of these guys, but that's who we're waiting for at this point.
mhm. I kind of liken it to like the subscriber contest that we do on Football Guys, where you're always looking to get like those. I like to build out on there where I do 30 guys and grab 10 receivers, and it's a salary cap game, so you're grabbing guys like $3 or $4 at wide receiver, but you have 9 of them and we only need 3 of them each week. So like that's the kind of how I play some builds like this the same way, where I'm fine grabbing 9 receivers. Yeah, we don't have like the great names at the top. But yeah, who knows? Like it's not about, for this type of build, it's not about getting all the quarterbacks and tight ends and receivers. Like you can't do that. Like you have to sacrifice somewhere. So
Yep. And we are sacrificing heavily at the wide receiver position. We're going to go with one more running back here, though, because we have 4, and I'd definitely like to add one more. James Robinson off the board. Isaiah Pacheco is off my board, I should say. I don't
Yeah,
know if
I like
he's going to be getting much meaningful work.
Mostert or Herbert would be my
Yeah,
two.
I was hoping you'd say that. I love both of these. Do we want to take KJ Osborne first, or do we think that KJ Osborne makes it back to us? We got this guy with 5 wide receivers, this guy with five wide receivers. It wouldn't surprise me if they go with another receiver here, but I think these guys. I'll go running back here because I think both these guys have a just. I have them a tier ahead of KJ Osborne, so that'll
Yeah.
do it for us for running backs at this point. Ezekiel Elliott, Brees Hall, J.K. Dobbins, Cordero Patterson, Raheem Mostert. I mean, we just went headfirst to the dead zone there, and grabbed a whole bunch of them. But like you said, we only need 2 to hit.
Yeah, I mean that's just kind of how your builds go sometimes. That's why you draft more than one team. So it's
Exactly.
not a big deal at all.
And in our case, 150 of these puppy teams.
Yeah.
We might still get
I've
KJ
kind of
Osborne here. Let's just talk through this. If KJ Osborne goes off the board, who do you think is the guy that's going to fit in with these wide receivers? Well, Marvin Jones went off the board, so we got our KJ Osborne here. I think there's a pretty big tier fall off after Osborne. You're not taking him ahead of any of these guys, are you?
well, I've been off Osborne a little bit lately, but I think he's probably the guy you take here. I like Alec Pierce as well. I've been on him lately, but yeah, I think you do Osborne just for you're looking for spike weeks out of him. And one of the guys goes down in front of him, then he's going to be premium pick. So it's kind of how I look at him.
I mean, here we've still got 15, 16, 17, 18, 4 picks left, and we're going to be going wide receiver, wide receiver, wide receiver, wide receiver. We'll probably get a last round, sprinkle in either James Prochet or Devin Duvernay to stack up with Lamar Jackson. But I think at this point, we're not too concerned about stacks. We're not too concerned about correlation. We're just trying to get anything we can out of wide receivers at this point. So we'll probably be sticking relatively close to ADP. But let's just kind of talk through, who are some of your favorite late round wide receivers? I feel like usually at this point in the draft is when I'm looking at the high upside running backs and
Mhm.
handcuffs and satellite backs. But here we are going for wide receivers, so a little bit out of my comfort zone. And it seems like a lot of the guys that were my favorite late round wide receivers, Kendrick Bourne and Nico Collins and KJ Osborne, who we just drafted, they've all been pushed up into the not earlier rounds, but you're not getting them 16th, 17th, 18th anymore. So who are the guys that you're kind of eyeballing here?
Usually at the end of drafts, Curtis Samuels, and David Bell, those are two of my big targets in the 18th round. I like Duvernay again. I'm back in on him. I like Peoples Jones. Yeah, I don't mind going with Bell and a Peoples Jones, but you already have Cooper.
That's a good point.
I've
I
been
mean, Bell
taking.
looked great in that last preseason game, though,
Mhm.
and I'm eating crow. I was not a big fan of David Bell, but man, he looked good.
Yeah, and just our team is kind of a boring older team, if I want to say that at the skill positions. So I wonder if I would just only go younger players, take shots on a lot of these guys.
So we'll take Sammy Watkins off.
Yeah, I wouldn't think.
Is Zay Jones a little too old for you?
No, I don't mind Zay Jones. I like the first two guys you got there.
Pearson Williams, that would be ideal. They would fit in perfectly with this build if one of those guys could
Yeah,
slide to us.
but yeah, it dries up really quick, and you have to kind of know your stuff here at the end on the receivers. There's a lot of duds. I like Van Jefferson as well too. Like at end of drafts, I've been taking him in the 18th round sometimes, just as a eighth, ninth receiver. Just I know he's probably not gonna be ready this week, but I know his injury kind of has been lingering, so definitely
And
people are scared off.
we've already got Josh Palmer. We've already got KJ Osborne. I mean, we've already got a theme of going with the wide receiver 3 on explosive offenses. Why not just triple down at this point and take Van Jefferson?
I like that.
Now, we don't want to adapt too much to a single piece of news, but something jumped out to me that's kind of surprising. Tyrion Davis Price, ADP 178. Jeff Wilson Jr., ADP 188. So going about a full round after him. Did you see the report yesterday that a San Francisco beat reporter said that there is no question about it, very clear cut, Jeff Wilson Jr. is the RB2. And we know that Elijah Mitchell has an injury history. I mean, at this point in the season, at this point in the offseason, it's too late for those ADBs to regulate. So, I mean, that could be something where people are still taking TDP ahead of Jeff Wilson Jr., and that could just be a huge mistake that people aren't going to be able to, correct before week 1.
Yeah, the way I look at the 49ers, like I said earlier, they're just a great team and they're just so hard to figure out for fantasy. And like last year was the same, right? Like no one even had Elisha Mitchell on their board or radar at all, and he was the guy. Like
It's
it
Trey
could be,
Sermon.
yeah, it could be, yeah. Like everyone was so in on Sermon, but like this year could be the same. Like maybe it's none of these guys, or maybe it's like all four of them mix and match, and then maybe it's like a fifth guy comes out of nowhere. Like I'm on Mitchell, like when he falls to me, but I'm not on anybody else in that backfield.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel as well. And then the other thing that just it's kind of the way that Kyle Shanahan schemes up these games. So one week you'll have George Kittle getting 13, 15 targets and Debo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk not doing much at all. And then the very next week it comes out and it's the Debo Samuel show and he's getting 15 targets and George Kittle is held in line, blocking the whole time. So I love the 49ers for best ball, but if we're talking about in redraft, managed leagues where you have to set a lineup, you never feel good putting a 49er in your starting lineup, even if it is Debo Samuel or George Kittle. You just always have that risk that they're just going to put up a donut on you.
Yeah, they're a tough team for sure. Yeah, they're fine winning games 13-10, So
Yep.
yeah, they're not gonna they're a tough team.
Yeah,
And
and they're
like
also fine
almost
taking George Kittle, arguably the best receiving tight end in the NFL, and they're just gonna say, "Hey, you're gonna block on 100% of snaps this week." I mean, they're tough to figure out. Well, here we go, Jameson Williams. I really like that pick. Obviously starting the season on PUP, coming off the ACL injury, but my goodness, if this team could somehow sneak into the playoffs, Jameson Williams could have a Monra St. Brown type of end of the season.
I've heard like various reports too. Like some people say like, oh, he's way far away from coming back, and then other people are just like, oh, he's ahead of schedule. So like it's hard to know with him. Haven't heard any definite answers on that. So I think he's no different than like people are taking Hopkins. He's out for 6 games. Like what's the difference? y- an aging veteran. Like I get like there's more value in him, but at the same time, like Jameson could be like the rookie you wanted all along. So I
Right.
think I don't mind it. Yeah, I don't mind it at the end here.
Well, James, this is going to be a pick for you. We got two of your favorite guys dropping to us here. Two of your favorite late round targets, Kenny Galladay and Corey Davis. Do you have a strong stance between the two of them?
Uh,
Looking at the build that we got here, which one do you think fits in better with us? Amari Cooper, Tyler Lockett, Josh Palmer, Jacoby Myers, KJ Osborne, Jameson Williams, or do we want to take Duvernay on the thoughts that he might not make it back to us, or Galladay, Corey Davis? Are these one of the guys we're taking here?
yeah, I don't know. This is like this is what you force yourself into.
Who do
I
you
do.
prefer? Because I know you like both of these guys.
I mean, Curtis or Corey Davis is fine. I don't care. It's too
Ah,
late.
we're gonna miss it. We missed it. Kenny Galladay it is. I think the through about 500 drafts this offseason, I think that is officially my first share of Kenny Galladay. So, what a way to end the last show of the offseason, finally getting some Kenny Galladay on the
See,
board.
you say I like Kenny Galladay. I didn't. I'm like, there was a point that I liked his value in drafts, but then it's
Fair
like
enough.
this past month has just been a disaster for him, and sometimes I see him go undrafted even now, which is
Yep.
kind of crazy.
Yeah. I mean, I
So
was, this time of year is when you got to check waivers on all your dynasty teams, make sure that you're ready for week one and all that. I'm in a 12-team dynasty league with 15 bench spots, and Kenny Galladay was available in one of those leagues. I mean, people have just completely given up on this guy.
the whole Giants team's garbage. So I mean,
Yeah.
Barkley's the one guy that we want there. So I
Yeah.
don't know. Like
I mean,
none of
people are
those.
hanging on to that hope that Brian Dable comes in and just turns Daniel Jones into Josh Allen, which is it in the realm of possibility? Of course, anything is, but is it realistic? Probably not.
Like even Wandale Robinson, like I get like that's a fun pick, it's a new player, but like he could absolutely be nothing. So
Mhm.
like I don't think there's any difference as much. Like there is difference because you're like I'd rather take him over Galladay, but I don't know. They're all kind of the same. All those Giants receivers, nobody stands out. I mean, Tony's
And
the one guy.
and they just brought in Pimpleton, who is just much another Wandale Robinson and Kadarius Toney, just Khalil Pimpleton, a little guy, shifty
Mm.
with the ball in his hands. They're doing something weird over there. We'll see if it translates or not, but like on paper, they look so good. Sterling Shepard has been one of my favorite late round targets. I don't know how you feel about Sterling Shepard. I mean, this guy just he is Daniel Jones's favorite target, and I know he's coming off the Achilles tear, but he's been in camp and he's been looking pretty good in camp at that. So he's a guy that I've been drafting quite a bit. Another guy that goes undrafted pretty often. But I know we've talked about this where you like doing, two kind of flyers from the same team at the end of the drafts. Do we do this here? We just drafted Kenny Galladay. Do we take Sterling Shepard as well and just hope that one of these guys can hit?
No, that's up to you. I'm fine with doing that. It's pretty slim pickings. Like I like Westbrook Akina, I like Cedric Wilson.
Kyle Phillips, is that a guy that's getting you going at all?
Like Cedric Wilson could be a guy that we're getting three wide receiver, like the third wide receiver in every team.
Well,
He
let's
he
go with
would fit
Donovan
that bill.
Peoples-Jones on this one just because we've already got Amari Cooper. I feel
Yeah.
like that kind of helps us out a little bit. And then talk to me about Cedric Wilson, though, because Cedric Wilson is a guy that I have not drafted at all, but I'm interested in hearing your take on him while we got these next few picks.
He just looked good last year, in my opinion. He looked good enough to get a ton of money. So, and now he's going to an offense that could turn things around, where it looks like the Dolphins are going to be a playoff contender in some ways. He obviously has two guys that are way up ADP, like a second and third round ADPs, but yeah, I don't know. I just think he's like an 18th round pick that will give you 2 or 3 spike weeks, and that's all you can ask for at that position.
That's what you're hoping for. So Sterling
Yeah.
Shepard or Cedric Wilson, who do we want to take with this final pick?
Yeah, I mean that's your call. Like if you're up on the Shepherd, that's fine by me.
Let's do Shepard just because we already got Galladay. If we've invested into the Giants offense, might as well invest an 18th round pick. And here we got it 25 minutes ago. Sterling Shepard said he will play week 1. 29 years old and coming off an Achilles injury. That is just unbelievable. So let's go through and look at this whole team. Take a look at the draft board here.
I saw a couple teams didn't even take any quarterbacks until the last couple of rounds.
Yeah, because we kind of broke the board when we took Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes at the 3-4 turn. All right, that is not working for whatever reason. Let's just go back to here and take a look in the screen. So we started off Travis Kelce, Mark Andrews, Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, of course. And then here was just gobbling straight value. I mean, Ezekiel Elliott, Breece Hall, J.K. Dobbins, not any guys that I feel overly confident about, but at the value that we got them, that's a pretty solid trio considering that we didn't take our first running back until round 5. From there, Cooper took him at value as well. Lockett hoping for some spike weeks. Cordell Patterson was another value play, and we talked about this. We're bleeding so much value in those first few rounds by trying to, match up those QB tight ends. We kind of got to take value later on, but I really like these two picks, Josh Palmer and Jacoby Myers. For the build that we have and just overall, just, talking some player takes here, I think these guys are both just wildly undervalued. We talked about the contingent value with Josh Palmer if something happens to Keenan Allen or Mike Williams. Talked about Jacoby Myers finishing top 16 in target share last year. Really like both of these guys and was happy that we were able to fit them into our builds. Raheem Mostert is a guy that I've been beating the drum for all offseason, and now we're getting a resounding drum beat coming out of Miami that he looks like he could get quite a bit of work now that he's healthy. So really like Raheem Mostert there as well. And then just swinging purely for the fences with the rest of these picks. I mean, talking pure upside, there's no guarantee with any of these guys. KJ Osborne, Jameson Williams, Kenny Galladay, Donovan Peoples-Jones, Sterling Shepard. Overall, I think that's about as good as you can get for that build, considering the first 4 rounds that we did. Is there anything that you would have done differently?
I mean, the one thing I try sometimes when I'm doing that build is to wait on one of those quarterbacks and try to get like a more secure running back or receiver. Like if there's one at value that fell to me, and then I try to get both the quarterbacks. And if I don't, it's fine. But yeah, I think it's just a fun way to try to build, especially when you're. I said this on the Discord. I did a Discord on Footballguys, and I had the 12 pick. So I had to be different, right? So I wanted to be different. But I think it forces you to be different. It forces you to, you know what, I'm not going to win at running back or I'm not going to win at wide receiver because I'm picking kind of at the end of the draft. So it's going to be harder. I'm not going to get the guys I want. So let me just lock in these other positions where I know I could be of value to my team. And then I try to take all these other stands throughout the draft. So yeah, I think it's worth your $5. You can try it a couple times, right? And maybe one of them will look better. So
right, and that's the thing. We're not maxing out BBM with 150 entries where we do that in the first 4 rounds. This is just something that we're having some fun with on a $5 puppy draft, and why not? And I think that you make a really good point. You probably could have waited on Patrick Mahomes, and then there's even some other things that you can kind of tweak and do a little bit differently. You can take Kyle Pitts instead, and then that way, instead of paying up for Patrick Mahomes in the 4th round. Then you tack on a Marcus Mariota in the 17th or 18th round, and you've got a very similar build. Obviously, you're giving up some of the upside at quarterback by not having Patrick Mahomes, but you're also not limiting your upside by having 2 quarterbacks with your top 4 picks. So, it's a fun way to build something new, and then you can do some variations from that as well. Overall, I think that was a fun one. Excited to see how many puking emojis we get when we share this one on Twitter today.
Yeah, I mean, it just forces you to be different, think outside of the box, and to not just lock on to ADP and what. I mean, anyone can just follow ADP and click the next guy. So yeah, it's something different. It's fun. Don't be afraid to be different. If you think of something, try it out. Give it your $5. Like, even I've stacked the whole Buffalo offense. I've stacked the whole Bengals offense, like, or the Chargers. Like, you can get all those, and they're kind of unique, and not everyone can get them.
Yeah,
And it's worth $5 to kind of chase it here and there.
with T. Higgins now moving into the 2nd round, that's a little bit tougher. But yeah, not that long ago, you can get lucky where Jamar Chase would slide a little bit, and then you can get Joe Mixon in the 2nd round, and then get T. Higgins in the 3rd. Those days are over, but I have one team where I did that, where I was able to get
Yeah.
started off my draft Jamar Chase, Joe Mixon, T. Higgins, and then of course I just reached for Joe Burrow. I want to say in round 5 or 6, just to make sure that I can complete the stack. But yeah, it's fun to have some crazy entries like that, especially when you're volume drafting and putting out 5, 6, 700 drafts like we are. I mean, if you don't mind sharing, James, what's your number at for the year? I'm guessing you're well over 1,000 at this point.
Yeah, I haven't totaled them all up, but yeah, I think I'm over like 2,000 on Underdog, and like another 100 or 200 in DraftKings, and probably like 400 or 500 on Drafters. So,
All right. Well,
but yeah,
fingers crossed that we can make some
Underdog's
money
the
this
way to
year.
go.
Yeah. Well, fingers crossed that we can hopefully make some money this year, and take our wives out to a nice dinner, or maybe even good enough that we can take the family on a vacation. We'll see how the season treats us this year. But the one thing before we log off here, obviously make sure you subscribe to the YouTube page at youtube.com/footballguys if you have not already. But also join us on Discord. We have a channel on the Discord server that James and I are both pretty active in, talking a lot about best ball. And what we're going to be doing in season is James, I believe what we're planning to do are just some of the Sunday slates where we'll be drafting for those games specifically. And rather than joining random lobbies, what we'll probably do is build a private lobby and share it in that best ball chat. So if you want a chance to draft against the two of us and learn some best ball tips and tricks and just really have some fun talking about some player values and whatnot, be sure to find us on Discord. You can find that on the Twitter page. You can find it on our website. And I believe we have it in the YouTube description as well. But we just fired that Discord up a couple weeks ago, and it has been humming. So join some really fun conversations over there. James, before we sign off, as always, let everyone know where they can find you on social media. And if you have any parting words before we finish up our last episode of the off season, now's your chance.
Yeah, no, I'm just on Twitter at James Brimacombe. I'm just happy to talk basketball anytime. Happy to jump in drafts with you guys, whatnot. And yeah, it's been a long off season. Thursday's coming. We get to enjoy football, and that is the best part about basketball. So when all your buddies, or maybe you guys are doing it too, and you're playing redraft leagues, or when they're playing redraft leagues or whatnot, and having to do their waiver wire, you just sit back and look at your ownership on your basketball team. So that's what I'll be doing. So
Absolutely. Looking forward to it. And as always, you can find me on Twitter at Dave Kluge. Feel free to shoot me a DM if you're looking for any questions or anything. But like I said, find us on Discord, and we have some really good conversations happening over there. But thank you so much for tuning in to the final episode of the Football Guys Best Ball Show for this offseason. But we'll catch you in season, showing you some of the Sunday slates. And then, really what I'm looking forward to, James, is the spring drafting that we'll be doing for the 2023 season. It'll be here before we know it. Thank you so much for tuning in, though, and we will see you next week.